PowerPlayChess, brought to you in association with Kagi. The British Championship has begun. There's a decent prize fund, which means there's a decent lineup as well. So top four players, Michael Adams, David Howell, Gawain Jones and Luke McShane, all stalwarts of the English team over the past few years. So there's a chasing pack as well of very strong players, including prodigies such as Shreyas Royal and also Bardana Stevenandan, the 9-year-old sensation. She really is something very special. So it's going to be a very interesting tournament. 9-round Swiss. I'd like to show you the first round game between Declan Shafi from Scotland and Gawain Jones, English Grandmaster. I just mentioned him. Gawain absolutely loves the initiative, so we're in for a treat here. It's a very nice game. So d4 from Shafi, and Gawain plays the Benko, except he plays a very special kind of Benko, as we're going to see. So a6. So far everything normal, and of course you can either take this pawn or play g6. Those are the normal continuations. But Gawain plays e6. Now this is a little bit unusual. It has attracted a variety of mavericks over the years. Not played very often. Recently Dubov has played it a few times in the last couple of years. So very often you see in the Benko that one of Black's assets is this actually very nice pawn structure. And then you take here. So this is a very different kind of strategy. Black is looking to, blow up White's centre. So it's possible to take here, but then, this leads to a very different kind of position where Black has claimed the centre with pawns. But Shafi decides to support the pawn on d5, which looks very logical. So Gawain exchanges on d5. Now you could take that pawn on a6, but just bishop e7. So simple development. Very interesting. Of course it allows White to exchange knight for a bishop, but that speeds up Black's development, and then possibly d5 is coming. So bishop f4 played. Now that's going to force an exchange. Knight takes, queen takes, knight c6. Well, so far what's the pawn count? Well, I'm assuming this is going to be recaptured. So Black is probably just one pawn down, but already has quite a lead in development, considering that White's pieces on the king side are on their starting blocks. So where is White's king going to go? That's a big question. And the queen is potentially vulnerable. This bishop might move to f6 to zing down the diagonal. So, I think that White has certain practical problems here. Anyway, it's White to play. e4. Black castles. Okay, this is already a red flag for White, because White's king is in the middle, Black's king is safe. Knight f3. And I think in this position, I don't see anything particularly wrong with bishop takes a6. Because if bishop a6, then there's a check. Typical little tactic. So the queen prevents White from castling. Black has excellent conversation. So, of course, White has other ways to play, maybe a3 here. But, I think Black has very good compensation for the pawn. But Gawain, typical Gawain, he plays rook takes a6. He loves to put pressure on his opponent. Loves to test his opponent. So, of course, he's hoping that White is going to take here. And then this bishop looks wonderful. Stops White from castling kingside. But Shafi plays bishop c4 instead. He's not distracted by the rook and just wants to castle. And if White gets the king to safety, then White has a pawn up, and actually White's pieces look pretty good. So bishop b7. Okay, watch out. There's some kind of discovered attack. Possibly knight a5 here. So the queen moves out of the way. And then knight a5. Anyway, so basically black is begging for this bishop to take the rook. It's really interesting. And yeah, if bishop d3, then of course that's a very nasty pin. And what else? Well, I think white doesn't have to take here. There is a sort of safe way for white to play, and that's to play bishop d5 here. And after this exchange, yes, black has play, but at least the king gets the safety. I would say that this is probably going to fizzle out to a draw, actually. You know, after something like this, I imagine black will be able to pick up this pawn. So bishop d5 is, you know, it keeps the game under wraps. You know, it's manageable. But white was very ambitious here. Shafi was ambitious. He took the rook and then castled queenside. I mean, this looks absolutely terrifying. But, you know, fair play. You know, white is going for it. He's the exchange up. And indeed, the computer thinks this is a good way for white to play. I mean, I wouldn't dream of doing this with white. It looks too terrifying. You know, suddenly there are open files here. A lot of black pieces in play. Just looks too scary to me. Have a think. White to play. How would you play this position with white? This is a very interesting moment in the game. As I said, the computer applauds white's play here. If computers could applaud. But what do you play now with white? I mean, already there's a lot of pressure here. Cheers. You ever think? I'll have a drink. White to play. What would you do? Well, considering that this knight might be floating into c4, then queen c3 looks like a sensible move. And it's not a bad move. But the computer actually thinks that this is the best move. I mean, this is very bold. And if bishop f6, bishop e5, knight c4, and here is the key move, because this looks terrible for white. But rook d6 is a very strong move. Preparing to sack here. And then the bishop controls the b2 pawn. And after this, in fact, white is doing pretty well. I mean, the endgame looks fine for white. And yeah, this is basically a big problem. Queen a5 you can take here. And white should be better there. But you need to calculate that very carefully. And queen takes d7 is a really risky move. Not easy. But queen c3 played instead also looks reasonable. Bishop b5 protects this pawn. And you never know. Starts to make room for the rook. h4. Well, the computer thinks this is a good move. I mean, this is very, very brave. Rook a8. h5. Absolutely incredible. Queen e6. I mean, I would be terrified with white here. h6, threatening mate in 1. So f6. And here is a crunch moment in the game. How do you play with white? Well, in fact, the best move is b3 here. I would be terrified. And after knight c6, be careful. Stuff is starting to happen. a4. Incredibly, the computer thinks that white is doing well here, but only if you find this move, king d2. And it assesses this as better for white. So this is the thing. I think you have to take computer assessments sometimes with a pinch of salt, because you know, white has played a series of only moves there, and frankly, you know, if you're calculating this position from way back here, well, you're never going to find a move like King D2 after 10 moves. Anyway, in this position, White played Knight G5. Well, if that's taken, then Queen G7 is mate. But Queen takes A2, and this just turns the tables. And Black is doing well. Knight B3, and now an excellent move from Gawain. Rook A3, great idea. Threatening a discovered check on either A1 or D4, and this is winning for Black. Knight G5 played. I mean, there's no decent defense now, actually. And now you could already play Knight D4, but actually Gawain, just no drama, just takes this pawn. And now goes for the queen. Check. King D2, and in this position, White had had enough and resigned. Well, Black is material ahead and still has a winning attack here. Bishop B4 coming, for example. This was such an interesting game because I think, as I said, Gawain loves the initiative. He doesn't back down, and if you play like this, you can't back down. So, even in this position, when it looked like White was counter-attacking with H4, some people would sort of slow down, take a time out, somehow do something on the king side, but no. You've just got to keep going with these moves. So, Gawain is very single-minded, focused on keeping the initiative, and in the end, it paid off because White made a fatal error in this position. Excellent game. So there we go. I'll be keeping you updated from time to time on how the British Championship is going. You can follow it online in various places. But it looks set to be an excellent tournament. Thanks for watching.